We interrupt your Mothers by Grace podcast with the dogs, dads of grace. That's a story. What was it like for you?
One of the reasons we got pregnant is to see if we were fertile. We went to the hospital at like midnight. The whole time she was in pain, like serious pain. I'm looking at her and I'm helpless. Like I can't do anything.
Yo, that season was tough. 5 months of pressure. I'm telling you, those were the hardest conversations that I had to have with God.
And Charlene was like, I think I'm pregnant. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way this isn't happening. There's no way. There's no way. Honestly, I was like, I don't want to do this.
Ooh.
Straight up, I told my parents, I was like, Mom, Dad, we're pregnant. She came outside and I just saw fear on her face.
The baby's heartbeat started dropping. The baby might not make it.
Charlene, baby A has a birthmark. Baby A has a birthmark.
If it wasn't for God, I would have lost my mind in 2021.
She got the light in her life. Her love never fails. She lives to walk right. And through her trials, so much grace. So much grace. So much grace. So much grace.
We interrupt your Mothers by Grace podcast with the dogs, dads of grace. No, today we get to be the special guests at the Mothers by Grace podcast. And today we get to share our experience and as dads to the stories that our lovely wives have shared so far. And so we're honored to be here. Before we get started, I got a question for you guys. So our wives are doing this podcast. I wanted to ask you guys, if you were to host your own podcast, what would it be about?
Hey.
I think I have a number of things it would be about. Like I do a podcast on graphic design and talking about designers. Actually, probably coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just a discipleship like podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, because like if we have a record of some of the things we talk about in teaching people about the Word of God and things like that, I think we'd have like an opportunity to share that with people who we don't necessarily meet every single day. So yeah, I think it would be a good podcast.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. Right now, if that podcast was out, what would you talk about? Like what book of the Bible, what story would you talk about? Put you on the
it's good
spot.
that you went first.
I think I would love to start with either the Gospel of John or the Book of Romans.
Nice.
Because I feel like those two books really capture the heart of the whole Bible.
Our Bible study is actually going through the Gospel of John right now.
Nice.
All right, what about you, Edu?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to do a podcast yet, but two things I'm extremely passionate about is tech and God, of course. But I don't know. I still feel like I have quite a bit to hash out. But I'm very passionate about tech and making sure that it's used right. Not just used, but used right. Yeah. But in my spare time, I don't mind speaking to the guys that are coming up behind me, quote unquote.
Us young bloods.
Yeah, the younger guys, because when I was coming up in my career, there were those people that I would seek after and follow after in terms of a kind of a mentorship kind of setup. And they made quite a few opportunities available to me through their conversation, through their leadership, through how they worked and just how they were as people. And since I got all of that for free, I really want to pass that on as well. It's not mine to keep. So it would have to be something around tech and bringing up the younger generation, these fun guys that we call the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. That would be fun to do.
Nice. Okay, so yours sounds like deep. My my podcast will be about fantasy football, American fantasy football, letting you know who to pick up on the waiver wire, who to trade, who to start, stats. Yeah, I'll do that. Or if I was getting paid for a podcast, travel. Because then they'll pay me to travel and to see cool places.
That's clever.
Yeah.
That's clever.
So
You just have smart solutions.
if you're going to pay me to travel, I'll tell you about the places I've gone
Yeah.
and the food I eat. Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
Oh, yes. So we get the opportunity to talk about our side of the story from what our wives have shared.
Yes.
And their amazing podcasts. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like our wives have done such a fantastic job so far. And it's just really cool to be alongside of them and support them in this way. And so I guess the very first episode, they shared why they started this podcast. And so, like, I guess I want to ask you guys, I guess, how have you seen your wives grow, or how have you seen your wives flourish since doing this podcast?
I feel like Washo has gotten like a sense of purpose and drive that I hadn't seen before. And I think it's because she's now working on a project. So like she's excited, she's thinking about ideas, she's trying to innovate and think of what else can we do? How can we do it better? And things like that. Which also gives her energy back at home, you know, because if you're just there with the kids, 100%, like, you kind of end up losing yourself. So I feel like she's started finding herself in a new way. Yeah, so that's been a big deal.
It's sort of similar for Kadzo, considering that even we're really close neighbors.
Yeah.
I love the woman that she's becoming.
Yeah.
This has given her an avenue outside the kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing her pour out her authentic self. These are things that she talks about at home.
Yeah.
These are things that she talks about with some of her closest friends, and more so now with Washo and Charlene. It's a continuation of conversations that they would have even without the camera.
Yeah.
So seeing her pour herself out and have those authentic conversations is something that I absolutely love, because it's kind of like therapy in a way. And even as she was going through some of those tough episodes, she said she made a promise to herself and to God. And she was like, I'm going to talk about these things.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about these things, because when she was going through it, she didn't have many resources to sort of identify with.
Yeah.
And this became such a vehicle to allow her to express the things that she went through, with the ambition to help other people that may go through the same thing. Yeah.
What you guys said is the same for myself, our family, and Charlene. And like, I've always said this, but I still remember the time we were in your house, and like, we just got back from America, my wife and I, and our kids were playing together. And our wives were just talking, and they were joking, and they were talking about how God has led them through this parenthood journey and everything, and laughing, and the connection. I remember sitting there and just thinking, this is beautiful. Like, these conversations need to be shared. Like, why not start a podcast?
Yeah.
And because what they have to share is just so powerful and beautiful and real. And just on a personal level with like Charlene. So we've been in ministry for a long time, since before we got married. And when we started that, continuing all the way up to last year, some of the comments people have always said was, oh, this is Gabe's thing and Charlene's coming along. And like, this is Gabe's thing, Charlene's coming along, or Charlene's helping Gabe. And some people have expressed that. And so with this podcast, it's cool to see Charlene coming to life, and Charlene leading this, and her voice, and having something she's driven about and excited about. Not only that, but the boldness and the confidence that's just growing in light of this. Like, it's just really cool to see and see on camera, hear on podcasts, and experience during this time. And just like what you guys said with the seeing them get excited about, like, oh, I got these plans. Oh, I got these ideas. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, and it's just like, yeah, we're creating something together, and it's fun and it's cool to see. And I just really enjoy being a cheerleader right now. Go, Charlene. Go, Charlene. I'm done.
We'll get you pom-poms. No,
we'll get you a skirt.
But actually, it's weird that people would say that this is Gabe's thing. Charlene is just helping, but I think maybe there's a misconception sometimes. Maybe because Charlene is introverted, you're extroverted, and then you're louder. She's softer, so maybe people would probably see you more than they would see her. Yet she has like a lot to offer, So,
and I've also been told I'm a little more pushy too, so I'm a little more upfront.
We've seen it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Mr. Manager.
It's not a little bit,
but it's in a good way. It's in a good way.
I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Gabriel, husband to Charlene. Yeah.
My name is Robbie, husband to Washo.
And I'm Ed, husband to the one and only Kadzo.
Right. Yeah. So it's just been really cool working on this project with Charlene, also working on it with you guys, and just hearing their stories. And thinking back on the podcast and the topics and everything, one of the ones that really stood out to me was Kadzo's story with the pregnancy. Like, I mean, we got to know each other about a year ago. Of course, I didn't know all the history with their pregnancy, but like, bro, that was that's a story. What was it like for you?
Oh, dude, it was tough. T for tough. It was properly tough. I was looking at some of the comments on the podcast, and guys were saying Kadzo with the details. The details were exactly how that's exactly how it happened. But now from a man's perspective, looking, I don't know if it's looking in, looking up, looking next to me, I don't know. Just looking back, fine, looking back. That season was tough.
Yeah.
It was very tough. I had a lot of things going on my end because 2021, our son was born in May 2021. Okay, get this. My son was born in May 2021. He was born at 32 weeks. So he was born a preemie. So he had to stay in hospital for about 2 weeks before he could be let out. 2 months before that, that's March 2021, with still peak COVID season. My dad was hospitalized with COVID around that time. He barely just made it out. And again, back another 2 months, we lost my mom in January 2021. So it was 6 months, not even 6, 5 months of pressure. 5 months of, I usually say, if it wasn't for God, I would have lost my mind in 2021. And considering that I'm also in the tech field, the demands for career, the demands from work were peak because there's a lot of pressure to do, a lot of digitize this and online that and make this more accessible and efficient to A, B, and C, So all that was weighing on me. And my wife is going, she told about the story how she was diagnosed with cancer the year before. And all that is going on. And I still have to be there for my wife. I still have to be the voice of sanity. I still have to be the one that gives us some sense of grounding. I'm telling you, those were the hardest conversations that I had to have with God. He had to strengthen me so that I'm available for her because even she's going through it. And I'll tell you what, God really is faithful.
Yeah.
Because if we're able to talk about it, not only did he bring us through, but he healed us through the hurt. You get, he healed us through the heart. He took care of all our anxieties. In fact, we were making jokes with Rob at the time. Remember when when we were in hospital,
Yeah.
we were saying, everything I prayed against happened. Everything. Because I don't know if Kazu, I think she did, but she talked about this. She may have talked about this in terms of her birth story. Not her birth story, but Tando's birth story. She was hospitalized a week before Tando was born at 31 weeks. And the doctor sat us down and said, we are going to try to keep the baby in, we're going to try to keep the baby in her for as long as possible, because it is cheaper for the baby to be in her than in an incubator. You remember that?
Yeah.
And oh my God, that week I spent in have you ever almost cried blood? I spent it in, I've talked to everyone looking for encouragement in everything. I'm like, God, don't let it happen. God, you are faithful. And I said all kinds of things, all kinds of prayers from the depth of my heart. I was genuine about it. And guess what happens? A week later, the baby comes. And my heart sank, because I already know that I'm going to be hit with one hell of a hospital bill. And every day that boy was in the incubator, I would spend time with the doctor asking, but what if we took him home today? But what about today? I know you've said that. I get it. I know where you're coming from, but can we just go home today? Because my fear was the bill.
Yeah.
And the bill kept going up and up and up. And there was even a point where he was a bit jaundiced. I think that's the term.
Yeah.
He was a bit jaundiced. So he had to go under UV light. And it was a strange feeling, because the movies tell you, oh, when you first see your baby, the skies open up and you feel this love. I didn't feel that immediately. You did?
I did feel it. Yeah, I did.
You're the one making those movies.
I felt
He's this guy on making the movie.
And I had
He's
to,
from
too.
America.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
They need to make a Kenyan version of that thing, because I didn't feel it immediately. I didn't feel like, 'cause I was confused.
Yeah.
I was confused. I was like, wait, what? I wasn't even ready to be a dad then.
Yeah.
I knew I had time. This boy came 2 months earlier. I knew I had time. But yeah, he's in the incubator, and I'm looking at him and I'm trying to connect with him. I'm calling him my son. I'm calling him the names that God gave us for him, just trying to connect. And I'm like, the reason why I couldn't connect is because he's in a box.
Yeah.
The most I could do at that time was touch his finger. In fact, I have photos and videos of him grabbing my finger, and that's as much contact as I had with him for the first 2 weeks of his life. It was ridiculous. And my wife is going through it. She's happily over the cancer, yeah, but she's torn, because she's seeing her baby and she can't touch him. He can't breastfeed yet.
Yeah.
It was tough. I have a lot more details with my wife, but it really was a tough season to go through. I don't know what it was like for you guys.
One of the things you said is like, God was faithful through the whole thing, and like how you prayed, everything you prayed against still happened. Yet God was still faithful in every bit of it.
Yeah.
God was faithful in Kazo's health,
Yeah.
and Tando's health, and you connecting to your child, the hospital bills, like all those fears that you prayed against.
Yep.
God said, you know what? I'm going to show you I'm faithful. And I'm going to allow those to happen and still overcome them. And so now you guys have a testimony.
And guess what? Just to add more to the testimony, the very bill that I feared, by the grace of God, we had insurance. So from my understanding is that the insurance would only cover to a certain limit.
Yeah.
So that certain limit is what I would keep checking for with the hospital. And then one fine day, I get a call from the office and they're like, oh, how's your son? I'm like, oh, well, he's in this situation. And things are thick. And they tell me, oh, by the way, if that's the situation, then we're doubling his cover.
Whew.
They doubled his cover.
Whew. Wow.
Imagine. And he left hospital. By the end of the 2 weeks, he left about 10,000 shillings short of the full cover.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that was the thing I was telling God, I'm like, I complained about, by the way, I did, truth be told. I'm not going to be one of those Christians that said, you know what, God,
You're so nice.
yeah, you're so faithful. you're
so
good.
good.
I was like, I don't understand you. I had one of those tough conversations,
man.
and then he still showed me how faithful he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Gosh.
my friend.
That's cool.
And by the way, I was the first staff member to use that cover. It changed the year Tando was born.
Oh, wow.
Nobody
God-
else in the company
I
had
was looking
used
out
it.
for you guys.
I was busy freaking out, and God had sorted me out months before.
Yeah.
I had freaked out.
Yeah.
But really, God really is faithful, guys.
Yeah, man.
God really is faithful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How was yours?
Mine? Okay, yeah, you beat me to it. So our pregnancy journey, how's my pregnancy journey?
How was your pregnancy?
I wasn't pregnant. She was pregnant. Our pregnancy journey took place in America. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I remember. So Charlene shared the story on one of the episodes. I think it was the second episode, but I remember how they got together, or how the babies began to form in the womb. We got home from our trip with my little brother, and Charlene was like, I think I'm pregnant. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way this isn't happening. There's no way. And so I think 2 weeks went by, and she was like, we got to get the test. We got to get the kit. And so we got the test. We got the kit. And there's lines, and she was pregnant. I just remember thinking, oh, my goodness. I'm not ready for this. I am not ready for this at all.
How long were you married by then?
2 years. 2 years.
Okay.
And I always told Charlene, like, I want to wait to be a dad, because once you're a dad, you're forever a dad. But there's only a short time in marriage where you're just husband and wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to enjoy that husband and wife season before I become a dad, because then you're forever a dad. And so I remember when we got it, I was just like, gosh. And I was just like, honestly, I was like, I don't want to do this.
Ooh.
I was like, all right, Charlene, we're doing this. Let's pray. And let's get through it. And so that night we went upstairs and we had dinner with our parents, and straight up, I told my parents, I was like, Mom, Dad, we're pregnant. Like, I said it just like that too.
No gender, no baby reveal, nothing.
I was like, Mom, Dad, we're pregnant.
Yeah.
And they're like, huh? Thankfully, like Charlene has shared, like, my parents opened their home. We were able to stay in their house for free and go through it. But I remember the first time we went to the hospital, I wasn't allowed in. And so Charlene was there going through the whole process because of COVID, going through the whole process by herself while I sat outside. And Charlene, you know, she shared this, but she came outside and I just saw just fear on her face. And I was like, what's wrong? And she told me, I'll tell you in the car. And that's when I guessed. I was like, we're having twins, aren't we?
Hey.
And she was like, how did you know? And I was like, and I just bursted up laughing. I just laughed. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I did not want a kid. Now I'm getting two. But at that same time, I went from not wanting a kid to excited about having two. Because I was like, I'm going to do this. At least I get two. Like, we can put them in matching outfits. We can have, like, we can be competitive. We can do, like, all these cool things with twins. Like, I was like, all right, if we're having kids, at least it's cool.
Yeah.
At least we're having two. And so I remember we went to Popeyes right after the doctor's visit. And I was driving. Charlene was next to me. And she had the what's it called?
The
Ultrasound. She had the ultrasound on her lap. And the lady said, oh, congratulations. And Charlene and I looked at each other. We're like, what? Huh? Oh.
Popeye.
And then she was like, you're having a kid. Oh, and then we're like, oh, we're actually having twins. And she says, oh. And that's how we felt. It was just like, yeah.
That sounds like a death sentence. She was like, I'll be happy if it was one, but two?
Two. So that's how it felt. But so that was the initial of it. Throughout the whole journey, though, I would also be like you. God has been faithful. And some of the big things that has been impactful in our lives is my parents opening up their home for us. Charlene being in a high risk pregnancy with twins, and during the time of COVID, and God just being faithful in those doctor visits and her health. And there's times where Eden wasn't getting enough food, and so Charlene had to change her diet drastically, and like God was faithful through the whole thing. And the hospital bills and just everything looking back, it was different, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, the worst part was that I wasn't able to go into the ultrasound.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go and be there doing that whole process. And so like I remember Charlene showing me photos or sending me the videos on my phone, and like I don't know how to read an ultrasound. It just looks like like lines and shadows, and I was just like,
You wish it had a bit of color.
yeah. I was just like,
Is there like a video?
it's like that. I guess that's cool. Like, all right. But I do remember when the babies came. I had that moment. It was March 31st, 7 a.m. And Eden came out first. Baby A came out first. And the doctor gave it to me. And I was like, Charlene, baby A has a birthmark. Baby A has a birthmark. And then I went and I put her on the table and they gave me baby B. And I was like, Charlene, baby B, she's here. Baby B's here. And I was with the babies and I was like, I should be with Charlene. And so I'm like, Charlene, how are you doing? Like, and she was like, go with the babies. Like, all right, I'm going to the babies. And I was like, Charlene, baby B is 4 pounds, 15 ounces. Baby A is 5 pounds, 1 ounce. And like, I say that because before this, people tell you the baby's weight, and I'm just like, I don't care about the baby's weight.
Yeah, like, why is that important?
I don't care about the baby's weight. Like, that's
So
cool.
what? It was.
But now I never forget
Yeah.
Eden and Zoe's weight.
I
Just
had to
being
care
there.
about Tando's weight because he was a normal baby is about what, 3 kgs?
3. Yeah.
Tando's 1.735 kgs. He couldn't leave the hospital until he was 2 kgs. He was lighter than a pack of unga.
Wow.
Sugar.
Why would you describe it that way?
You tell me what when you think 2 kgs, what do you think? You think unga? You think sugar? You don't think tea, because who drinks 2 kgs of tea? But he was lighter
He's
than
not
that.
2 kgs anymore,
No,
man.
he's
He's a big
not.
boy now.
He's a big boy now.
He's a big boy now. No, but yeah, so when the girls came, it was an amazing experience. I feel like I was born to be a dad, especially Eden and Zoe's dad. Like, I love it. I love being their dad, and yeah, it's been really cool now having them. So yeah, that's I guess my experience in birth story.
You're doing a good job.
I think out of the 3 of us, he's the only one that got to go in to see the wife giving birth, because you didn't go in as well. Did you go in outside? No, you didn't.
No, because
No, he didn't.
yeah, for both.
Wow.
But it's because it was a C-section. Yeah, so
Charlene as well.
And you still went in?
I mean, I
But you
stay
stood
behind the
behind-
curtains. The doctor asked if I wanted to see, but there's some things when you see you cannot see.
Yeah, that's true.
we'd have a whole different conversation right now.
Yeah. Because they didn't let me in. They didn't let me in. They didn't let you in either.
Yeah, they didn't let me in.
But I think your story is also unique because Washo's initially did not start as a C-section.
Washo's, wow. Our journey was actually dope. Like, okay, Washo usually says this, that I don't have a story. Like, I don't have a sad story. I have good parents. I was raised by both parents. Like, nobody died in my family.
That's why you'll never make it on Survivor.
Yeah, I'd never make it on
You don't have a Survivor story.
You don't have a backstory.
Guys would just vote me out on the first day.
Guys, life is too good.
Yeah, it's too good.
Go back home to your
Why
two
do you
parents.
need this money? So yeah. So like even our pregnancy journey, like it was with Kalel, it was really good. Like I remember trying not to make fun of Washo's morning sickness, because it's a bad thing, but it was also funny because like I had never seen Washo puke before, like even when we were dating. So this was like a whole new experience.
I got a funny story.
And it was And it was actually funny because I've never like Washo pukes loud.
Yeah.
So there was a day like when I got home, my neighbors came to me to the car. Yo, Rob, I think there's something wrong with your wife. I was like, no, there's nothing wrong. She's pregnant. Yeah. It was funny, but I can't make fun. But I want to make fun, but I can't make fun. So I'll make fun when the second trimester, when there's no morning sickness and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really good. Like, it was interesting. We were excited. I think I was sharing with a friend the other day that one of the reasons, this is not the main reason, but one of the reasons we got pregnant is to see if we were fertile.
Let's see how this works.
You are.
Can we get pregnant?
Very.
But anyway, but yeah, so our tufts.
Okay, your place is fire. Like, let's just find out.
If you're
we'll know.
But we had actually prepared for a child. So because it was something that we had talked about when we got married. We had prayed about it. We had we actually had prophetic word about it. So it was something that, like, emotionally and psychologically we were prepared, even spiritually. And I'd even say financially, because we had insurance that year.
Hey.
So it was good. It was really, everything was working. So what happened was the tough moment came when now she was giving birth. So we went to the hospital at like midnight. Her water broke at midnight. So we were like, yo, we have to go. It was during COVID season, so we couldn't ask anyone to take us, because we had initially wanted some of our friends to take us. There was another couple. But because it was at night, we realized it's going to be tough. So let's just go. So we drove to the hospital. We went in. We checked for dilation and all those things. I really don't know those words, but yeah, hopefully I'm saying the right things. So she was like, was it like 2 centimeters when we got there? I think it was like 2 centimeters. So I was like, yeah, we're doing well.
It's coming.
Yeah. No, it was like 1 centimeter. So it hadn't really moved much. And then we're like, yeah, it's all good. At least we've started the process. Then there was they wanted to give her something to add to like maybe what how would you say,
Speed it up?
Yeah, speed up the contraction so that like we can get to the baby faster.
And this was
Let me
with
put it out.
Kal-El. This was
This was with Kal-El.
That's Kal-El.
Yeah. So they put that. I've forgotten what the medicine was. It was just
epidermal.
Red Bull.
Yeah. No. But yeah,
We should spend more time in the pregnancy reward.
we should.
We have no idea
We
what we're
really
talking
need to read about these things. But yeah,
Did you read those books? Those
No.
pregnancy books?
No.
I was on Instagram.
No.
So they gave her that thing, and by 7 a.m. in the morning, because we got there like, I'd say like from 1 to like 7, she had only moved 1 centimeter.
Wow.
So we were like, so we're gonna wait here for like 3 days, based on my calculations, because I'm a dude. So I'm like, so 6 hours, 1 centimeter.
Yeah.
Another 6 hours, 2
Another
centimeters.
centimeter.
We have to get to at least 9.5 centimeters. So it was crazy, but like and the whole time she was in pain, like serious pain. And it's the kind of pain like I'm looking at her and I'm helpless. Like I can't do anything. And like as a husband, you always want to be like the superhero. You want to be able to sort out the issue. But this was one issue you cannot sort out. Like she's in pain and you just have to be there and hold her hand. We were praying. we had put worship music on the
Atmosphere.
on the iPad.
Hey.
Akina dancing.
Dancing no you can.
Tongues. Yeah. They just tongues. And things like that. So we were just praying. We were praying. Okay, I was mostly the one praying. She was yelling. And it was tough. So we continued until about like 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So 3 p.m. in the afternoon. No, around 1 p.m. first.
How do you say 3 p.m. in the afternoon?
Sorry.
I didn't even catch
Okay, yeah.
So like 3 a.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah, 3 a.m. in the afternoon. That's what I meant to say. 3 a.m. in the afternoon. But yeah, at around 1 p.m. She got up, she took off the stuff, like what are they called? The stuff that were monitoring the baby's heartbeat.
I hate those machines.
She took them off. She was like, I can't do this. I'm not gonna do this. I can't do this. I'm done. It's been 12 hours of excruciating pain. I can't continue. So she went to the bathroom. I'm trying to plead with her. Babe, we gotta have a baby. Babe, please. Don't do this. So when she came back, I called the doctor. Check how far she is, because even I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I told, just check how far she is. So she was like, by that time she was around 6 centimeters. Then at 3 p.m. she was at 7 centimeters. So I'm like, we're moving. Yeah, let's do this. And then something happened. The baby's heartbeat started dropping. So we're like, so what does that mean? We have to do a C-section now, because the baby might not make it to 10 centimeters. And even if he does, he might not get out like alive. So so we have to just do a C-section right now. And I was like, no, wait. wait. There's no, and the doctor is like, we can't wait. Like, we have to do this. Sign here. I was like, okay, fine. We have to do this. Because backstory is we were very prepared for natural birth. We were not prepared for a C-section. And we had a very strong feeling we would have natural birth, but that didn't happen. So they rushed her into the theater, and I went to the corridor and just sat there, like on the floor. So some nurses came and said, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just a bit worried, waiting for all this to end." So they were like, "Can we give you a room to sit in, because
we're gonna clean the floor."
No, like our, because they were like, their bosses will really think that they're not doing their jobs because they just left me there. So they got me a room, and I went into the room and started praying again. And then one of the nurses came like 15 minutes later. "Hey, are you Washo's husband?" "Yes." "Congratulations, you have a boy. Your son is here." I was like, "Yay!"
So you didn't know the sex before that?
No, I knew.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew. So I was like, yes. So I went. I looked at his nose. I was like, "Yeah, that's mine. That's my son." So we went into the room, and I think I had the moment, because like.
So me, I'm not spiritual. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's because you had
a box,
a box shielding you from the moment. So
you guys got to Shika Kangal from the day one.
Yeah.
The nurse handed me.
I didn't.
Eden.
See, that day, Kwanzaa, you came. You remember that day you came? Yeah. So
I held my babies before Charlene did. Charlene had to call me over and be like, "Hey, can you bring them?" I was like,
I only saw him before my wife.
Yeah.
So even when because he went into ICU first, Tando.
Yeah.
So I had to go to ICU, then go back and check on my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't hold him until he was out of the incubator.
Sorry, man.
So the movies are true. I'm hating on movies and it's just me.
So I held Kalel and I started speaking into his life. Like I was like, Makosa Pataya.
Come on.
You shall be great. You shall be what? You shall be this. You are.
Your name is...
Like I just started declaring things into his life, and then he started crying, and I was like, yeah, even if you're crying, like this, these things are true, And then it started hitting me like, yo, how is Washo? Where's Washo? So I started sending people. Ed came. I was like, go tell the nurses. Where's Washo?
Check on Washo.
Because backstory, I had just watched this movie, this Kevin Hart movie,
Yeah,
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
And it's a movie where he lost his wife.
Don't spoil it.
When,
I'm just kidding.
If you haven't watched it by now, guys, it's been 2 years.
It's been spoiled already.
It's a good movie though.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so I was like, yo, I can't lose Washo. I can't do this alone. So I kept sending everyone to go check on Washo. And after like an hour, I got feedback that she's okay. She's just passed out because she was extremely tired. Yeah, so I just stayed there with Kalel like the whole, like for about 3 hours. We were taking photos. He started sucking his thumb. So I was like, yeah, that's my boy. Yeah, as in... He was just doing, like, we're just doing the normal things. I think Ketura's birth story was the tough one, but mostly for Washo, because I remember, like, she was crying, like, every day for, like, I think the whole of the 3rd trimester.
Hey.
Every day. Like, we could be watching a comedy. And we start laughing, and then she starts crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? But like she was really going through it mentally and emotionally. And it was tough because, again, I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah, you feel disabled.
Yeah, because you try and comfort, but you're like, is this really helpful? Because I think we are really solution oriented. So I started trying to think of, maybe I should say this. No. Maybe I should do this. But none of those things worked. So it was just something that we had to go through. I would say, like, for Ketura, I was more prepared, like, in terms of, because Ketura was, we didn't really plan for her. We didn't really plan for her.
Like, I remember you just tried to see if you're still fertile.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Just wanted to double check.
No, but like, Washo came and told me, I think I'm pregnant. And then I was like, nah, you can't. No. So she did a test. She did a second test. And she said she's pregnant. So we sat on the bed like for like 30 minutes without saying anything. And then after 30 minutes, I was like, okay, babe, I'm happy about this. I've digested. I've thought about it. We're going to make it. So I'm happy about it. And we didn't have insurance that year. So I started saving immediately. Like, we started saving together. We talked about, like, okay, so this month we're going to be putting this amount of money aside, regardless of what. And we did that for the whole, now 8 months, about 8 months. So in terms of finances, we were like, I'd say we were prepared. In terms of
spirituality.
Like spiritually and emotionally, I think I was okay. I was excited. Washo was going through it because she was like, I don't know how I'm going to handle 2 kids under 2. And it's tough. I'm not even working. How are we going to hack? Like, how are we going to survive? How are we going to... Like, I can't even begin to understand the number of things that were going through her mind, but all of them were, I tend to think like all of them were happening at the same time. You know, like how you can have a thought, a bad thought, and then it goes, and then another bad thought comes. Like for her, it was all of them together. So it was really tough for her. But immediately Keturah landed, like everything changed. Like she was okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all you needed? All my hugs were nothing. All my, all my, it's gonna be okay, tissue.
Nah.
She just needed to see Keturah, and she was okay. And like, it's been good. Like,
Yeah.
really good. Like, we don't sleep, but it's been good.
202 is fun. Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's fun.
We had it just one time. No, I mean, hearing you guys' stories and just reflecting back, like, I'm just thinking how strong our wives are. Like,
Yeah.
going through that.
Yeah.
With Katso and the scare, the hours of excruciating pain, carrying 2 babies in high risk pregnancy, like,
Yeah.
gosh, our wives are pretty strong. But I'm also thinking of how faithful God is.
Yeah.
In that situation, and showing up provision, showing up in presence, showing up in his goodness, showing up in his faithfulness, man. Those stories are, I mean, for us, they're memories, but they're also testimonies to God's goodness. And I just also feel led to say, like, we love doing this podcast. And I also, as we do this podcast, I'm just thinking about our audience members and those who have stories like this, and women who've gone through stories like this, and it hasn't had a happy ending, where, the circumstances are different. And so just for a moment, I just want to pray for those ladies as well, and those families as well, that, they might not have the opportunity to hold their babies, or their babies didn't grow. And so, let's just pray real quick. God, we thank you for this podcast and our stories and our testimonies of our children. God, you have blessed us, and we say thank you. You're a good God who gives good gifts. And Lord, as there's many people who hear this podcast, many women and families who don't have a testimony like this, God, I pray that right now, wherever they are, you would meet them in a powerful, personal, impactful way, that your presence would be with them. And God, that you would remind them of your faithfulness and your goodness. In the storm and in the unknown circumstances, God, even in the pain, God, we thank you that you're a God who brings healing. You bring light and clarity. God, you are faithful, and the story's not over. And so we just want to take a moment and pray for them. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
So transitioning, I guess, as we're on this podcast, and we get to reflect on the podcast, has there been anything that you guys have heard from this season that has stood out for you, or that you just want to give your perspective on?
Oh, don't look at me. I'm going through the Rolodex. I'm trying to think.
So we talked about pregnancy journeys. We talked about names. We talked about changes, whether it's emotionally, physically, relationships, husband, friend, spiritually. And so and there's some other things as well.
I think I've never told Washo this, but I think I like her body now.
Hey.
That's cool.
Than before.
Hey. You guys will end up experimenting for it. That's what's going to happen. That's how it starts.
You guys are probably still fertile.
That's how it starts.
We know. We're not testing the bodies anymore. We know it's that. But I think also one thing that stood out for me is how we got a deeper sense of purpose. So it changed for the better. What I wish we could have more is more time alone together. And I think when we get through to when the kids are a bit when we get a bit more organized and stuff like that, I think we'd be able to do that. a bit more. Because we still have those moments, but it's not as frequent as I would have hoped. Because we really have, like, 2 under 2 is a lot of responsibility. Yeah, so I think that's one thing that I can think about. But with the friendships, I think it's the dynamic of, like, also the visions aligning. Like, even how we really connected with you guys, it's because of the vision of our families, like where we want to see our families go to, how we want to see them grow, what God is doing in their lives. So that really fostered, like, stronger friendships. And unfortunately, like, I would say there are some friendships that I've lost along the way, but there's something God has been teaching me, because I recently really reconnected with one of my closest friends from, like, we've grown up together, but, like, we grew apart, and we serve in the same church, but we grew apart, and we reconnected because of Christ speaking to him, speaking to me about he spoke to us about each other, and we just started doing, like, a frequent hangout, like, yo, let's meet today, let's talk. And it's beautiful. Like, there's so much there's so much he's getting, there's so much richness in the friendship. So I realized that I really think friendships are something that we should really trust God for. Yeah. Rather than say, this friendship, it's not really benefiting me anymore, I'm out. I think there's a place of really, because in Romans it says that desire to have relationships with people who do not think the same way that you do. So this is one reason I really love my friendship with this guy. It's because we don't think the same way, and that's what drew us apart. But it's the same thing that has brought us really closer together. So yeah, I think there's a lot to examine in friendships. But yeah, that's what I would say really stood out.
Yeah.
Me, I'll pick naming.
I was gonna choose naming. But go ahead.
You wanna go first?
No, dude, you said first. No. I got something second. So
okay. So on naming, naming is a unique one. That episode was quite unique. It was quite heavy, to be honest, because it's something that has a lot of opinion around. And imagine a situation like a place where I reference to, insofar as naming is concerned, is when Zachariah, the father of John the Baptist, my perspective of the story, we know that he was, zipped. When he had that encounter and then he was zipped, he was told, sure, the child shall be named this. Because I feel like this dude in his heart had a different name. He had a different setting in his heart that he would have named this child and taken him away from what God intended for John the Baptist. In the same way, Christ himself, Mary and Joseph might have had, I like when Charlene talked about, boy-girl names, right? Going on the internet, I don't know if they had internet then, but there was all kinds of Hebrew names that they would have been referred to in the time. And then we probably
genealogies.
We'll go this way, we'll go that way. You get. But, God came and said, no, his name shall be this. Yeah. You get. His name shall be Yeshua. And that's how it sat. So there is a heavy emphasis on names. And going from the journey that my wife and I took, in the 2 years leading up to the birth of our son, we had to be very particular in terms of what God is speaking to us about this boy. In the episode, my wife shared, and she said, the day, I remember where I was sitting, and I had the conversation about his name with God for about slightly above a month. No, not about a month. When we found out we were pregnant, the conversation started. But I became more intentional as we were getting closer to the 9-month date. And as God would have it, I named him about a month before he was born prematurely. And I remember where I was, and I remember the conversations that I was having with God, and I remember his name sinking into my heart, and it sank and sat. And his names, even the way they are arranged, are part of my wife and I's conversation with God. And it behooved us, because God taking us through such a difficult season, such a difficult 2 years, cancer scares, prematurity, bills and all that, we could not afford not to hear the voice of God. We could only afford to hear the voice of God concerning him, because he's the one that sustains him. He's the one that called him and made him like Jeremiah. Before he was formed in the mother's womb, my son was named. And that's a truth that I hold dear. I cannot stress that enough. It is something I hold dear and I cherish it, because yes, he is my son, but he's more of a responsibility to mature him into who God says he is. You understand? And I hold that extremely dear. And it's something that not only will I do it for this one, but when God decides that we join the two parents of two wagon, it's going to be the same thing, because we truly believe that he has a purpose in God, and we have to name him name him and equip him according to the pattern and designs and wisdom that God has put in us as his parents to steward him towards that destiny. So naming is critical. I love that. It stood out, and in fact, I hope it's one of our most watched videos.
Yeah.
Or their most watched. Yeah. Go back and watch
if you've missed it.
Yeah. You
even if you've seen it, watch it again.
Yeah. You were saying something about, you also picked naming.
Yeah. So I love the names we picked for Eden and Zoe, and I feel like they're prophetic and have really deep meaning, and they're really personal to me as well. Charlene shared this in the story, but Eden, so when you have twins, people name their twins like similar names, like Jerome and Gerald, or Daryl and Darren. Like, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to go, or Alex and Alexis. We didn't want to go that direction. Yeah. But we wanted to have names that have meaning to it. And so we knew our firstborn was going to be Eden. I love Genesis 1-3 and the story of God walking with man. Everything was in shalom, perfect the way God created it. And so Eden, I was like, we know we're going to do that. Second name, that was difficult. Charlene liked Hazel. I liked Naima. But here they say Naima. I know that's the reason why we didn't name her. Because we as Americans,
I was looking at him like, is that Swahili?
Naima. That's why we didn't do it.
Okay.
Americans, she would have been like, Americans would have butchered her name.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, we can't settle. So yeah, just like you said, we went on Google. Christian names for girls.
Come on now.
The very last one, Zoe. And Zoe means life in Greek. And so this is in the naming episode, so check it out for the full story. But for the day before we had Eden and Zoe, Charlene was reading John 10. And John 10:10 says, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come to give life and give it abundantly. And so that's the night before we knew, all right, it's going to be Zoe. Eden and Zoe. But their names is a promise. Their names together is a promise that Eden, in the presence of the Lord, there is life.
Hey.
And so we didn't have Alex or Alexis, but we have a promise that in his presence there is life. And we pray and hope that as they grow up, that will become more and more real.
Amen.
And so yeah, I wanted to go on naming, but I guess I just did. My secondary thing that I was going to talk about is my personal relationship with God. So before I even got married, in continuing when I was married, or I still am married, continuing to when we got married, I had like these spiritual disciplines and habits that I would do every morning that, really helped me grow my walk with the Lord. Waking up early, coffee, reading scripture, prayer, scripture memory, just set aside that time. But when we had kids, they weren't sleeping.
Yeah.
And so I didn't wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And when I did, it was, bottles, Survivor. And so for like a year,
Yeah.
those disciplines were put on the back burner. And I was asking the Lord, can you like teach me in a different way? And so one of the cool joys about Eden and Zoe is seeing God through fatherhood with Eden and Zoe. And so like some things that come to my mind specifically, Zoe, when she wants to do something, she reaches up. She reaches up for my hand, and when she gets my hand, she's like, all right, I can do it. Now she walks or she climbs or she jumps. And every time she wants to do something, she's like, reaches up, and then I get the opportunity to put my hand there and she grabs it, and all this confidence comes. And I'm just reminded, like, in this life, so many times I try to do things myself, but God is a father who just has his hand there. It's just like, grab my hand, I got you. Grab my hand, we can walk together. Yeah. And then Eden, she's feisty, and she's feisty, and she likes to test the waters. And so with her comes more discipline, and more harshness at times. But even after that discipline, she still runs back to us, and curls up in our arms. And it's like just a reminder that, Eden, we discipline you because we love you, but we still love you and want you to be with us. And like Eden, like seeing that in Eden, it just as she's been growing up, has been beautiful. And so one of the cool aspects, I guess, for me in this fatherhood journey is seeing the fatherhood of God in a practical sense within the home, and just seeing, that reflected with Eden and Zoe has been a lot of fun. This
was a really special episode. I think dudes don't really sit and talk like this the way we do, the way we've just done right now, and the way we usually do off camera. So thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for interrupting Mothers by Grace.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.
Yeah,
we're here to stay. We're taking over.
So the Dads by Grace,
EBJ.
or Dads of Grace, which is Dogs podcast. And we are so happy to have hosted today.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you will share this with a friend. We hope you will subscribe for those who haven't subscribed yet.
Do it.
And we hope that you were blessed as well. Like, we hope that you actually learned something from a man's perspective of how some of these things go. Because we live in a society where, like, men, we think like these things that happen with babies and children, it's only the ladies who think about it, but like we have a lot that also goes through our minds,
Yeah, and I also just want to say, we would love to hear your stories as well as fathers. What the Lord is teaching you, your story of when your child came. Did you have that moment, or is it just us and not Edu? Also, one of the beautiful things about Mothers by Grace podcast is that they're building a community of moms. And we would like to hang out with you guys as dads. So if you're a dad out there and you want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us on email, Instagram. We love doing different things, whether it's playing Ultimate Frisbee. What do you guys like doing?
Playing football or PS.
PS.
Road trips.
Eating. We all love eating too.
Yes.
And so, reach out to us. We would love to get to know you guys on a personal level.
And for the wives, we just want to tell you we love you. We love what you're doing. We support you 100%. We have your backs. 1,000%. We have your backs. We are looking forward to how far this will go. We love you, babe. I love you. Your respective babes.
Everyone is a babe.
Everyone's babe.
We're proud of you.
Yeah.
We're proud of you, babe.
Yeah. But yeah, love you. Looking onwards and upwards. Looking forward to a lot more from you guys.
Yeah, and I just want to quote our wives as we close. Something they always say. 1, 2, 3. Don't be stingy. All right, we're out.
She got
so much grace, so much grace, so much grace, so much grace.